ultimately what I want to kind of convey to you is that words have power. You know, when we come into debate, we kind of, some of us have an understanding of what it is and what our goal is with it, and a lot of us don't. A lot of us are just kind of, I'm going to explore and see what all this is about. And I think it's a good thing to have both those perspectives and many more. It's a communications activity, and everybody has some form of communication that they come to debate already with. You know, we are here because we're trying to harness the power of words, you know? Here's the thing, you know, you've always had a voice. Debate doesn't give you a voice. It doesn't determine who you are. You came into debate with a self. And I think it's important to recognize that, because you will change and you will have new things that affect how you think and your perspective of yourself as you stay in the activity, as you have each round. And hopefully by the end of this camp alone, you will have learned some more things and form new opinions. But the purpose of this conversation, and I was hoping to have more of a dialogue, kind of as if folks have contributions, definitely chime in. But the significance of this is to recognize that as you learn more things, learning about how you can situate yourself with these new ideas, these new thoughts. So I remember, and I wanted to kind of give an example to kind of depart from this conversation. So I wanted to talk about a debate round that I had like a billion years ago when I was in high school, and participating in an urban debate league. And we, for some reason, I don't remember the particularities of the entire debate round, but we were having some kind of conversation about Christianity. And I came from a really Christian home. I came from a Southern Black Christian household with a lot of really conservative views. And to some degree, they were like kind of just speaking really negatively about Christianity. And I remember being like, thinking about debate and trying to figure out how I could make my arguments in there, in that debate round, without going too far into my personal beliefs. But then I started to feel so uncomfortable because what we were arguing wasn't my own personal perspectives. And I remember that being like something that I wanted to go home to talk about with my family, but I didn't really have an idea of exactly how I could make them understand that the things that I was learning in debate were these cool, interesting things that weren't necessarily in line with values or ideas that I had learned at home. And this is significant, not just because, you know, debate is so different from the rest of your life, or the things that you'll encounter in debate are vastly different from what you may talk about with your family or what you may talk about with your friends, but because you have to, you encounter things that you have to make a decision on in debate. You know, this topic, I think, is particularly significant, criminal justice reform. I think that this is particularly significant because many of us are intimately affected, and I've heard it echoed so far from the topic lecture to what I've seen in lab, in the orientation that we had as a staff, like a whole camp at the beginning of camp, which is basically saying that like a lot of the things that people are talking about in debate are not theoretical. And so I wanted to just provide some caution about who you will become as you have more and more debates. I don't think that it's a bad thing for you to have new ideas and new opinions, but you should be practicing some of the tools that Leia was talking about of mindfulness, but applying it in a way that's in the context of your arguments. So let's say that you said that you're negative against an affirmative, and they're saying that criminal justice reform is just whatever, the abolishing ICE is not a good thing. And you are saying that, no, abolishing ICE is an important thing, and here's XYZ reasons why. And then you listen, and then they have another speech, and they explain to you again why they think abolishing ICE is a good thing, and in some degree, you feel persuaded. You've heard an argument, something about it, about why, and this is like a rough example because, you know, ICE is bad. But the point is just to kind of talk about how when you encounter an argument that your ethics may suggest holistically, hey, this is bad, but you might be persuaded about it being on the opposite side. A part of kind of growing as a person, as a debater, as a scholar, is recognizing how to allow arguments that are different from your own views make sense in your mind. You know, you were like, that makes sense. You know, that's scary to me, that this thought that is against everything that I've learned is something that makes sense to me. You have to determine where you can situate it within yourself, and ultimately if it's something that's a part of your values, because debate kind of teaches us that we can be objective, you know, that you can advocate for this thing and remove yourself from it. But if we kind of listen to what some of the other staff members have suggested at multiple points so far in, you know, day one of camp alone, which is that we're going to be talking about things that intimately affect everybody's lives. You know, if not me personally, it affects the people in my community. It's affected my family members. It's affected all these different folks. And so this topic, I think, opens us up to the understanding that when we don't deal with the arguments that we talk about in debate, it can fester in ourselves. And so ultimately ask yourself, like, would I debate differently in front of my family? Would I debate differently in front of my friends? Would I debate differently in front of my cheerleading team? Would I debate differently in front of these groups of people? The answer is probably. But asking yourself, where is the central self? Like, who am I? What are my core values? And are all the things that I say in debate aligned with my values? Or am I just saying this for the purposes of winning? Do I think that I need to just say this because they said the opposite? Do I think that, like, I am able to separate myself from the words that I'm saying? Because ultimately, if you find yourself speaking and advocating for things that are against your values, you'll find yourself feeling lost. You know, what am I doing when I come back home if I've been saying something in debate that is, like, I think is really unethical when I think about it. And here's the thing, you're young. You're super young, and so it's not to say that being young means that you won't be aware, but it means that your opinions are still being shaped and formed, and that you will continue to change. And it's important mostly just that you know that these thoughts are in your head, and that you make a conscious decision about what you will do with them. Because if you don't, then you may become may start like actively allowing something to be a part of who you are and your how you orientate yourself in the world, and that's not within your core ethics and values. So yeah, I wanted to, like, I was hoping that this would be less lecture style, to kind of have more discussion, because I like to have a conversation that allows for us to, you know, go back and forth, because I know that, like, this is a bit theoretical, and I don't want to just, like, I didn't want to just talk about these things in specific, because I imagine that you've all, you know, you have opinions about criminal justice reform, and you have, like, been participating to some degree in the conversations that we've had through camp, you know, thus far. Everybody may not have been as talkative. You may have just, like, learned a little bit of stuff. You may have missed a lot of things from lectures, but we all have kind of learned some things about criminal justice reform. And I want us to feel really, really cautious about viewing arguments as just things in debate, you know, or understanding it for the purposes of utilizing it in debate. Because when we do so, we make the decision to remove ourselves from the thoughts that we are having in our mind, because our brains are still dealing with that. Like, I think that Leia's Leia, I learned a lot from Leia's lecture, where she was talking about just the sheer amount of thoughts. So when we're learning about new things and things that are challenging our ideas, when we don't deal with it, it doesn't make it go away. to be clear. It doesn't make it just something that we, like when we end the debate round, when we leave the tournament, when we put our files away, it doesn't mean that we're done dealing with these heavy conversations. And so, how many people do we have here? Because I would really like to talk with you all as opposed to just lecturing to you.
I only have 24 people here.
Awesome. So the 24 people, could you take yourselves off of mute? Unless you have a noisy background.
Or in the chat too, if you want to participate.
Hello.
Hey, Brooke.
Hey, y'all. All right. So what I was hoping to do with, and you can participate as much as you kind of feel comfortable with, is kind of getting towards later in the evening so I can understand if folks have lost a little bit of energy. But I kind of just wanted to have, I wanted to pose a question to the group and we can kind of just see where we can go from there. When you come into a debate round, how often do you write down how you feel after the debate?
I don't usually write down how I feel after. I kind of just like think about it and probably discuss it with my partner, but I'd never done that before.
Yeah, I think a lot of people talk about it on the, like with your partner, like, hey, do you discuss how do you feel about the round, or do you discuss how you like because I don't know, I'm trying to think about, and I want to use precise language because I imagine that we ask, hey, how did you feel about the round? And we're not asking, how are you doing after doing this debate round, as opposed to we're asking, what do you think, do you think we won? What did you think about how the other team competed against us? When you have a conversation with your partner after the round, I guess, and you ask about the round, do you discuss how you feel, like your feelings about the round, or do you only discuss about what the competitive element of the debate was?
No, we usually talk about both.
Both?
Yeah.
I guess some both.
And there's a bunch of folks in the chat. They're mostly saying that they never do it, especially the sort of writing it down and sort of like thinking about it like as a whole, because I'm sure folks in the moment feel the feelings, but just highlighting what Leia was talking about, like sort of taking the next step and recognizing those feelings and sort of seeing, is this a pattern? Are these negative thoughts? Are these things that we see sort of across these debates that we have, right? That is it just a feeling for this one debate, or what are we doing to recognize them?
Exactly. Like it's I think that it's important to also remember that not just like the immediate aftermath of the round will have an effect on you. When, I like to, and this is just like a small suggestion, is to try to keep a journal of how you feel about the rounds and what particular made you feel, as much as you can understand, what made you feel that way. Did the judge say something that made you feel really proud? Did your opponent say, wow, I learned something? Or did they do something that offended you? Did they ignore the poem that you had at the 1AC? Did they, elements of the debate round that contribute to the emotions that you feel after the round that I think are important to kind of just like be able to maintain control over, because a lot of people talk about getting burnt out in debate. Has anybody ever felt burnt out? Like anybody who's done debate for more than just right now?
These reacts if you're in the chat.
Strong burnout.
Oh, definitely. I remember in college, like we would be competing every week and just like burnt out and all those like all week, and like I didn't take care of myself back then, and it was like so detrimental to my health. Like I'm sure a lot of like other creators could do that, like back-to-back tournaments.
I don't know how we haven't kind of progressed more positively as a community to recognize that like as we have like more as we have more people like participating in debate at high levels, we recognize that like these conversations get really heated, and sometimes it's really passionate for the good, sometimes it's really passionate for the bad, but each time that passion is a lot, you know? And it's when we're not doing our best, we're surviving off of pizza and coffee and bakery snacks that our moms have sold at debate tournaments. You know, you're not in your best condition, and you're also coming to a debate that has been super heavy, and also challenge your values and challenge your ethics. And maybe they were just rude. Maybe it was just heavy. What, based off of the conversation that we had with Leia, what are some of the things that you think that you might be able to do to deal with a round that is challenging to you emotionally and spiritually?
I also just want to add, this is something that y'all already do, that your coaches have done, have told you to do. Like, you write down feedback from judges, right? When you get feedback at the end of the debate, what can you do, like, with that habit already in mind? What is something that you can do to help yourself, like, to answer Brooke's questions? Someone in the chat said they start keeping a journal of, like, their thoughts and feelings. That's super helpful. I also started doing that.
It's helpful to, like, I know that, like, maybe writing things down is not like everybody's method, but a Google Doc as a journal is, like, also a really helpful way, because then you can share it with multiple people and also be able to make sure that you're on track. I think that, like, you know, when we come to debate, it's not just to win, it's not just to you know, hang out with our friends. You're coming to learn and to become kind of, like, you know, a better you. You're learning new things, and you're hoping to become a better person in the community that you come from eventually, right? Because debate is supposed to be giving you things as much as you give to it. And if you find that you keep giving to it and you feel like crap at the end, are you asking yourself what happened to contribute that? And a large part of it is about words. You know, the section that I'm covering is called Words Have Power, because I don't think that we give enough understanding to how words can affect us. For example, if we were having a debate and someone said something to me that was misogynist, and I dealt with it, maybe I won that debate. You know, I called out what they said to me. I was like, y'all are messed up, whatever. You know, there was some offense to whatever I said, because that's not offense yet, you know, but I said something, and we won that debate, you know, and we got them on it. And at the end, I'm, like, writing furiously about the judges' comments. So I'm like, yeah, we tore them up. We got them. They shouldn't have done that to us. And you're frenzied, you know, but at the end of the day, you're still upset, because you're a person. And you experience this injury, you experience this challenge to your humanity. This person did some terrible thing, and you won at the end because you proved to somebody else that someone had done something or said something specifically that was harmful to you and your personhood, and you have to sit with that. You know, we can't just pretend that the words that people say to us, even when they are maybe not intended to be harmful, don't affect us, because they do, just in the ways that words can be powerful. I don't know how many of you have seen the 2013 NDT, where there's, like, where Ryan and Elijah they're, like, bomb, right? They're doing their ass about the whiz, and it's phenomenal. And from the 1AC to the 2AR, you can hear the words that they're saying, and you're just really inspired. It's bodily. You like, it may make you shaky a little bit, because those words have a power over your body, and words can also have negative power. It can also negatively impact your body. It can make you sluggish. It can make you tense. It can make you have headaches. Like, the things that we notice in debate rounds and at debate tournaments about what's happening to ourselves can have larger implications than just, I think I haven't drunk enough water today, which is probably true. Don't get me wrong, you probably didn't drink enough water today, but it's also about the ways in which we're like, our bodies are responding to the words that have affected us. Ooh, I like that one. I'm looking at I'm trying to look at the chat while also keeping up. Yeah, thank you for putting that in the chat. I strongly recommend seeing that if you haven't seen that. I guess it's like a debate dinosaur video now, but this is definitely a debate that shows you the effects of words having powers on both sides, because this was like a debate round that was charged in terms of politics. What is considered to be a very left-leaning team and is debating against a team that's considered more conservative. And so there's a lot of feelings that everybody coming into that room and have like watching both those teams and who would prevail. And so when they speak, there's a lot of power in how you listen to all the things that they're saying. And it's like, it's exciting. You know, you get adrenaline from listening to debaters who are very passionate, but it's also draining. It's also draining. How do you recharge after like noticing that a debate has impacted you negatively? Watch cartoons. What else do we do to build our energy back after we've felt negatively impacted from a debate?
Yeah, honestly, if you're one of my Landell debaters, I want to know this too, because it's been a while since I've been in your seat and being a debater. And I know, like, especially when we had in-person tournaments, those Fridays are late. Those buses are late. You got early morning the next day. Like, what keeps you going? Like, what is it that brings you back and like gets you back to a place where you're able to center yourself? Because I'm sure other debaters would love the tips.
I'm seeing some it seems like there's two for kind of cartoons, but one's anime. That's still significant. Sleep is important. To be honest, with all my debate friends, make it worth it. Talking with my team about it is comforting. Pizza.
Both my debate partner and I used to talk to our moms when we got home, which is a little strange. Like, I've never heard anybody else talk about that before. But like,
no,
my mom used
that's
to
real.
Yeah, my mom used to drive us to all of our debate tournaments, and like when we got back, it'd be like 1 a.m. a lot of the time. But we were just like, I would just like vent to her at 1 a.m. and then my partner would tell me, like years later, she was like, "Oh yeah, my mom would just sit there and like hold me while I cried over rounds that I was really upset over." Because it's like, we could vent to each other, but there's something about just like talking to family that's really centered, grounding, I guess.
I love that. I actually think that's a really important point to kind of go into, which is that when you find yourself affected by your debate rounds and experiencing some of the tension that we were talking about, you at the crossroads of your ethics, or you just feeling super confused at the end of the debate because you didn't know that maybe you had some different opinions than what you had always been taught, finding a safe person or group of persons to be able to vent to discuss or hash things out in a non-competitive context is important. So debate teaches us that, like, you know, we can have difficult conversations, like Leia was saying, and having conflict, but we have that for the purpose of winning. Who do you go to? If you haven't identified this, I think that this is a time where I would encourage you to work on identifying a list of people who you can talk to hash out your feelings. And that's not for the purpose of winning, you know, it's at least not in any material sense. It's for the purposes of you winning within yourself. Debate will give you the opportunity to learn more new things, but it's your decision to figure out where those things fit in your life. And it can be difficult to do that without having a resource to be able to safely describe all the things that are in your mind. Does anybody else have, outside of debate, when you have an issue in debate, who would you talk to about the things that you've learned that are maybe giving you some mental tension? I appreciate that Saya contributed that it was her, one of those people was her mom. For me, when I was in high school, it was also my mom. I remember leaving many tournaments to come home to cry. Many, because like I said, there were things that were challenging my personal ethics, and I didn't really understand where I felt in between that, because I wanted to make my own decisions. I wanted to be a person who was informed, but I also didn't know exactly where I could situate myself with the new ideas. Teammates, we got Jean. We got smiley faces in love. Well, did I miss some? My cat. My partner and my dog. Real. So I don't want to give y'all an assignment. I would like to make a suggestion about what to do with all the fields, and this is outside of just having a Google document. I would ask yourself to I like to handwrite. It's something about memory and having it in front of me and feeling like it can't be taken away by something breaking down. And I know that with cloud documents that you can have them anywhere, but something to me is really comforting about having a notebook. I would strongly suggest that you decide what your core values are and ask yourself after every debate, are you adhering to those core values? Some things that I might include in my core values list are what I feel about how people should be treated, my position on the government, what I think about the topic holistically, and the affirmative that I am reading. Do I agree with it? I never really did that as much as I should have actively. I always believed that the things that I talked about were generally things that I believe in. That was right? Because somebody had handed it to me. And especially right now, since we're the only evidence that, if you're not in open, the only evidence that you will be using will be the evidence that we provided to you, which says something, right? Because you didn't go out and find that yourself. You didn't determine that if you agree with this or not, per se. This is for the purposes of you just learning some things about debate and learning some things about the topic. But it's important for you to know where you sit on it so that you know, when you have feelings about the debate, it isn't a surprise. If you felt completely on the opposite end of an affirmative that you're defending, and you had a great debate round, maybe you won that debate, maybe you lost that debate, and at the end of the debate, you find yourself feeling really lethargic and, not that into it. And you're also maybe just a little bored with participating more. Ask yourself why. Is it something related to the debate round? What did I talk about? If I change what I talk about, would this be more interesting to me? If I feel unenthusiastic, what could I say to make this a more useful and engaging experience for me? Well, yeah, that's pretty much. I wanted to have more of an interactive conversation than I think I had led with when I first started. But I hope that this was something that was useful and a bit more colloquial. Yeah, if you have questions, definitely reach out to me. I really just wanted to make you think about what you come into the debate round with, because it matters a lot more than you think. And it's not always bad, and sometimes it's not always good, but it's mostly neutral. And so it's useful to be able to evaluate who you are and what those values are, so that even when you win, even when you lose, you will be able to say, I defended this how I'm supposed to defend it. I defended it how I needed to defend it. And so it does not matter the outcome in terms of the competition, because I have decided that I have done what I thought was best, and I have done that as best as I could. So yeah, thank you for coming to the self-care conversation. I hope y'all know the quote that I think that this was named after, because it's self-care is revolutionary. That is I believe, and it always I'd assume, and this might not be true, that was just related to the Audre Lorde quote. Did you name this, Leia?
Which one?
Did you name this lecture?
Oh, the debate anxiety thing, or the therapy thing?
Self-care is revolutionary.
I think that might have been a admin or Joseph, or I thought that was you. I mean, whoever
Oh,
it was,
no.
was brilliant.
I liked it because I was just saying that I thought it was related to the Audre Lorde quote, because I hadn't come up with the name myself. But the quote from Audre Lorde is about self-preservation, where she said that caring for myself is not self-indulgence, it is self-preservation, and that is an act of political warfare. And I always thought that was significant, and I hope that you would take away the significance of both these sections, because taking care of yourself looks like multiple things. It's like recognizing what ants are populating your life. It's like recognizing if you're doing debate in a way that feels like you keep yourself and your voice. Are you using your words, you know? Are you speaking in a way that you would speak that is reflective of an authentic self? Is it not? And what can you do to ensure that you are, because that is important to you. So just remember that as you move on through the rest of camp and through the tournament, is that taking care of yourself is of utmost importance, but recognizing where you situate yourself and how you care for yourself with others is important as well.